won't need a Bible this evening because there's going to be Bible passages in here, but it's basically going to come from the what is known as the ancient apocalypse of Ezra or Esdras. Now, again, this is not inspired scripture, but it is mentioned in the Bible as something good to know, just like the other books like Jasher and some of the other Apocrypha. But this particular one was actually part of the Protestant Apocrypha when it came out, and they removed it a few years later because it did contain errors. But there apparently is a prophecy, an end times prophecy, and it starts about a three-headed eagle. So what I'll do is I'll just read you the prophecy that he wrote down, and then we'll go back and explain parts of it, because it's going to sound strange when it starts out. But again, this is always good for information, and they use the apocryphal books for dating because they can get accurate dates as to what happened when, and good for just history. That's why the Bible recommends it, because it's just good to know, but you never take it as inspired. Wherever it conflicts with the Bible, no, it's not. And that's why it's not considered inspired. But like I said, it was included in the original King James Version. So you will see that part of this has already come to pass, and accurately, just the way it should. And then it gives additional information about the tribulation. So if you can rely on that prophecy to be right, then it's probably a good prophecy going into the tribulation. But this is called the three-headed eagle vision, and it's out of chapter 11 and 12 in the Apocalypse of Esdras. This is the vision. I dreamed an eagle came up from the sea, which had 12 feathers sticking up on one wing and 3 heads. I saw she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her, and clouds were gathered around her. Out of her feathers there grew opposing feathers, and they became little puny feathers, but her heads were asleep. The middle head was greater than the other heads, but it was asleep also. When the eagle flew with her wings and reigned over the earth, and all those who dwell therein, all things under heaven were subject unto her, and no one spoke against her, not a single creature upon earth. And then the next part, it says, the voice. Then the eagle rose upon her talons and spoke to her feathers, saying, do not watch all at once. Let each sleep in his own place and watch by course. But let the heads be preserved for the last. I beheld the voice did not come out of her heads, but from the middle of her body. 8 opposing feathers. I counted her opposing feathers, and there were 8 of them. First of the 12. On the right side there arose 1 feather and reigned over all the earth. After a time his reign ended, and he disappeared, so that even his place was no longer seen. Second of the 12. The next feather stood up and reigned a long time. While he was reigning, his end came also, and he disappeared like the first. And then it goes back to the voice. Then a voice said to it, listen, you who have ruled over the earth so long, this I say to you before you disappear. After you, no feather will rule as long as you have ruled, not even half as long. The third of the 12 feathers. Then arose the third feather and reigned as others before, and disappeared also. So it went with the rest of the feathers, reigning one after the other, and never seen again. Now let's talk about the other side of the wing, the 8 opposing feathers. I beheld in process of time the feathers that followed stood up on the right side, that they might rule also. Some of them ruled, but within a while they were also disappeared, for some of them started to reign, but could not hold on to the rule. After this I looked, and the 12 feathers and the 2 little feathers disappeared. Nothing remained on the eagle's body except 3 heads and the 6 opposing feathers. Last 2 opposing feathers. Then I saw that 2 little feathers also separated themselves from the 6th, but remained under the head that was upon the right side. And the 4 continued in their place. And I beheld the 4 feathers that were under the wing, thought to set themselves up and to have the rule. I beheld, and there was one set up, but it suddenly disappeared. The second disappeared more quickly than the first. The middle head awakens. I beheld the two feathers that remained plan to reign together. While they were making plans, one of the sleeping heads, the middle one, suddenly awoke. It was greater than the other two heads. Then I saw the other two heads joined with the middle one. All three heads turned and ate up the two puny feathers under the wing that were planning to reign. The middle head frightened the entire earth. It ruled over and greatly oppressed all those who dwelt in the earth. Its kingdom was greater than the kingdom of all the wings that were before it. Middle head disappears. After this, I beheld the middle head suddenly disappear, just like the wings had done before it. The two heads still remained, which in the same manner ruled over the earth and over all those that dwelt in the earth. The right head devours the left head. Then I beheld the head on the right side devour the head that was on the left. A lion roused from the forest. I heard a voice saying, "Look before you and consider what you see." I beheld what appeared to be a roaring lion roused from the forest. It spoke in a man's voice to the eagle, saying, "Listen now, and I will speak with you. The Most High says to you, aren't you what is left of the four beasts I made to reign in my world, that the end times might come through them? You, the fourth beast, overcame all the beasts that came before you, and you have ruled the world with terror and oppression. For so long you have lived on the earth with deceit. You have not judged the earth with truth. You have afflicted the meek and hurt the peaceable. You have loved liars and destroyed the homes of those who brought forth fruit and broke down the walls of those who never harmed you. Therefore, your insolence has been judged by the Most High, and your pride judged by the Mighty One. The Most High has also seen your proud times and ended them. With the eagle's abominations are complete. Therefore, eagle, disappear, you and your horrible wings, wicked feathers, malicious head, and hurtful claws, and your entire vain body, so that all the earth may be refreshed and return, being delivered from your violence, and that she may hope for judgment and mercy of him that made her." And then that's all of chapter 11. Now it sounds really strange. Some of it may sound a little familiar, like the lion in the forest. To me, it sounds like Jesus coming and judging the Antichrist. But we'll get to that part. And this is listed as the three-headed eagle interpretation. This is the chapter 12. It says, "The end of the dream. While the lion spoke these words unto the eagle, I saw the remaining head and the four feathers disappear, and the two that went under it and set themselves up to reign, whose kingdom was small and full of uproar, also disappeared. The whole body of the eagle was burnt, and the earth was in great fear. Then I woke from the dream, but my mind was troubled." And next section, "The prophet awakes. You have wrought all these things unto me because you search out the ways of the Most High. Oh, I am astonished, in shock, and greatly afraid because of what I have seen tonight. Then I petitioned the Most High to strengthen me, saying, My Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, and you have truly blessed me above others, if you will hear all my prayers, please strengthen me and reveal to your servant the interpretation of this vision which I have seen, so that my soul will be comforted. For you have counted me worthy to see the end of times and for periods." The interpretation. "He said unto me, This is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle that you saw shall come up from the sea is the fourth kingdom which appeared in the vision of your brother Daniel. But it was not explained to him. Therefore, I will now declare it to you. The days will come when a kingdom will arise on the earth, and it will be more terrifying than all the kingdoms that were before it. The 12 kings reign in it, one after another. The second that begins to reign will reign longer than any of the other 12. This is the interpretation of the 12 feathers that you saw in the vision." The voice. "As for the voice which you heard speak, and it came not from the heads, but from the middle of the body, this is the interpretation. After the time of that kingdom, there will arise great struggles. It will be in danger of failing. Nevertheless, it will not fall then, but will begin again." The 8 feathers. "As for your seeing the 8 opposing feathers sticking up to her wings, this is the interpretation. 8 kings will arise in her. Their reigns will be short and swift. The first 2 will perish in the middle of her time. The middle four will be kept until the time of her end, but two will be kept unto the end. The three heads. As for your seeing the three sleeping heads resting, this is the interpretation. In her last days, the Most High will raise up three kingdoms and renew many things with her, and they will have dominion over the earth, and will greatly press all those who dwell on the earth, much more than all who were before them. This is why they are called the heads of the eagle. These three will finish all the wickedness and perform the eagle's last actions. Middle head's disappearance. As for your seeing the large middle head disappear, this means one of them will die in bed, but in pain. Left and right heads. The two that remain will be slain with the sword, for the sword of one will devour the other, but in the last days will he fall by the sword himself. The two little feathers. As for your seeing the two puny feathers under the wings passing over to the head that is on the right side, this is the interpretation. These are the ones who the Most High has kept for the eagle's end. This kingdom's reign was brief and full of trouble, as you have seen. Now the lion, and it says Messiah in parentheses, the lion whom you saw coming up out of the forest, roaring and speaking to the eagle and rebuking her for her unrighteousness with all the words which you have heard, this is the Messiah, from whom the Most High has kept for them and for their wickedness in the end of days. The Messiah will reprove them and will upbraid them for their cruelty. The judgment, or great tribulation. First they will be placed before his judgment seat. They will be rebuked and then destroyed. The remnant delivered, and this is a reference to the rapture. Because of his mercy, he will deliver the remnant of my people, those who have been saved throughout my borders, and he will make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment, of which I have spoken unto you from the beginning. This is the dream that you saw, and these are the interpretations. This vision to be written down. You alone have been found worthy to have knowledge of the mystery of the Most High. Write therefore in a book all these things that you have seen, and put them in a hidden place. Teach them to the wise of your people, whose hearts you know are able, comprehending, to keep these mysteries. But you endure here yet 7 days more, that there may be revealed to you what the Most High wills to reveal to you. Okay, now a little bit may sound familiar of things that have gone on, but I know it gets kind of confusing when it starts talking about the feathers, but they all symbolize and designate something that we know is already passed. And this is part of that. The first part of the vision is chapter 11, 1 through 19, and its interpretation is 10 through 18. This is the fall of Rome. The most interesting part of this prophecy is the 12 feathers. The oldest manuscript of the Apocalypse of Esdras that still exists is dated about AD 200. Rome fell in AD 476. This accurate prophecy was written more than 200 years before the events took place. We are told by the angel that the three-headed eagle represents the Roman Empire. The 12 feathers, which is the very first part of the vision, pictures the division of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was in danger of collapsing, so the empire was split into two, and the Caesars moved to the new capital of Constantinople in AD 395. From that point, there were 12 rulers on the western side until the fall of the Western Empire in AD 476. The first one ruled 25 years, the second, Valentinian III, ruled 30 years. None of the rest ruled for even half that time. And you could actually, if you want to verify it, you can look in the World Book Encyclopedia from 1985, and it details that. And all those 12 feathers they're listed as Roman emperors. And when they list the rules of these different emperors, that's exactly spot on. The second ruler ruled longer than any of them. He ruled 30 years. The next closest was the first guy. He ruled 25 years, and the other ones were like 4 or 5, 1 year like that. But there's 12 of them to match the 12 feathers. So I mean, that's spot on as far as the fall of the Roman Empire. Yes, ma'am.
What are you reading from?
It's the Apocalypse of Esdras. It's No, it was part of the extra biblical books, like the Roman Catholics have their additional books, but they have them in their Bible, that the ones that we don't recognize. When they did the 1611, the King James Bible, they had one too, but they took it out after, I think it's about 10 years. They removed it because there were some inconsistencies. It wasn't accurate, and a lot of people just would not accept it. So they took it out. And this is one of the extra biblical books that they had originally included, but then took it out. But I mean, the prophecy, at least in these 2 chapters, is pretty much spot on. Now, as far as the end time stuff, we don't know yet. That's yet to happen. But it's still in line with what the Bible says, as far as even the end times, the Great Tribulation. But we know for a fact, as far as the Roman Empire, when it fell, and it did divide, and they did have these 12 rulers after that time, once they divided in the western half, but then the eastern half went on. So it'll get a little more in detail about that. So from that explanation, notice that both the eastern and western divisions of the old Roman Empire appeared on the right side of the eagle. Since the middle head symbolizes Rome itself, all these rulers would be on the eastern side. The western side will be the Holy Roman Empire later in time. 4th century church father Ephraim the Syrian wrote in chapter 1 of his book, The End Times, that the Roman Empire will be divided into 2 separate empires ruled by 2 brothers. Some 50 years later, after he gave this interpretation of the 3-headed eagle prophecy, he was proven correct. Emperor Theodosius' sons, Arcadius and Honorius, inherited the eastern and western halves of the empire, respectively. The schism occurred in AD 395 when they split. Ephraim also predicted the eastern division that would war with Persia, and that occurred in AD 602 to AD 628. These famous battles are known in history as the Byzantine and Persian Wars. Now, the middle head, the largest one, and this part is the vision in chapter 11, verse 28 through 32. This is papal Rome from AD 476 up until now. Some have taught that 3 heads were Western Rome, Eastern Rome, and the Holy Roman Empire. That sounds logical until you realize that Western Rome died out in AD 476 with the passing of the 12 feathers. If the feathers are gone, so is the Western Roman Empire. We are told the time of the 3 heads will be either during the end of the Roman kingdom or the end times. Either way, Western Rome's dying out in AD 76 is neither the end times nor it is the end of the Roman Empire. Since the Ottoman Empire destroyed Byzantium in AD 1453 and Napoleon destroyed the Holy Roman Empire in AD 1804. Therefore, the empire of the middle head must be what came out of the Western Roman Empire, papal Rome. When a vacuum of power began to form right before the fall of Rome, the popes moved in to take control of nations. At the height of its power, papal Rome controlled all earth, but its power was different. It did not reign with an army, but by religion. And we all know that. So what it's saying basically is that when the western leg of the Roman Empire died out, the civil government, that's when papal Rome came up. That's when the popes ruled, and that was known as the Holy Roman Empire for a long time. 3rd century Father Hippolytus of Rome stated in chapter 36 of his book, The Antichrist, that the Rome of his day is Mystery Babylon and somehow continues to exist after the destruction of the predicted divisions of the Roman Empire. Now, the left head. The left head from AD 1453 till 1970 is no one less than Germany. Germany is the left side. The left head started with the establishment of the Holy Roman Empire in approximately AD 800 and lasted until AD 1806. It ruled Europe under the control of the Pope. The Holy Roman Empire moved from Spain to France and towards its end to Germany. Rome's power waned and Germany became Protestant under Martin Luther. Then from 1523 to 1917, the German Empire controlled most of Europe. The Holy Roman Empire was crushed by Napoleon in the 1800s, although the Kaisers of Germany continued to rule until 1917 in World War I. In the 1930s, Adolf Hitler tried to create a third Roman Empire in which the final solution was to destroy the Jewish race completely. After World War II, this led the United Nations to recognize Israel's right to be a state in their ancient homeland. Now, this brings to more recent prophecy what is going to happen. The right head of the eagle is Russia. The fourth part of the vision is 1135, interpretation is 1227. The third head began with the establishment of the Byzantine Empire, which is the Eastern Roman Empire, in AD 395. The Byzantine Empire lasted for over 1,000 years. Ephraim the Syrian predicted in chapter 5 of his work, The End Times, that after the fall of Rome, there would be a second Christian empire which would last until the time of the apostasy. Sometime after its fall, the end times would begin. The Byzantine Empire fell to the Islamic Ottoman Empire in AD 1453. In chapter 4 of the same work, Ephraim says that the apostasy would begin with the senseless desert nations. This corresponds to the dragon nations of Arabia, spoken of in chapters 11 and 12. Ephraim may have been quoting the Ezra Apocalypse when he taught about the senseless desert nation. In AD 1056, the Eastern Orthodox Church, including Russia, broke away from Rome, further weakening Rome's power. When Byzantium fell to the Ottoman Empire, those were the Muslim Turks. In AD 1453, the last of the Caesars fled to Russia and intermarried with the Russian royal line of Nicholas I, creating the Tsars of Russia. They survived until 1917. Now that is really interesting that the Caesars went to Russia and became the Russian rulers. Since the Byzantine Empire never ate up the Holy Roman Empire, the right head eating up the left head must mean Russia eating up Germany, which took place in AD 1945. 1945 to 1991, that's the Cold War. Russia enslaved other countries and used their resources to become a superpower. The USSR collapsed in 1991, freeing those states. Ezekiel, chapter 38, verses 7 and 8a, refers to these events as the assembling and the guarding. And that scripture reads, this is Ezekiel 38, verses 7 and 8. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou, and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountain of Israel. But Ezekiel states that Gomer, Germany, with all its bands, East and West Germany, along with Austria, will accompany Russia when they attack Israel. And that's Ezekiel 38:6, which reads, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, one of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. And what this basically means, in order to have the Magog war, East and West Germany had to unite in one country, and we know that happened several decades ago. So this happened with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. The second thing is that Austria must unite with Germany. These will be among the allies of Russia when they attack Israel. (2011) to the 7-year tribulation. We will see in chapters 15 and 16, and that's chapters in the Apocalypse, Russia will enter the dragon nation's war with Syria. This seems to be the current war fought in Syria. This sets the first stage of Russia's involvement with Israeli politics. This will ultimately lead to the Gog-Magog war. And we do see that being set up. In fact, Russia has a major military port in Syria right now. They've had it for over 20 years, and I'm sure they're shipping plenty of materials there. So, rapture, tribulation, and second coming. The last part of this vision has the Lion of the tribe of Judah judging the nations. This is the great tribulation. Notice during the judgment, his people are joyful and protected until the day of judgment is over. This is the rapture of the church, followed by the second coming. The rapture is referred to as a day of deliverance. At this point, all heads are gone. God has destroyed Russia, as described in Ezekiel 38 and 39. The only thing left of the fourth beast is a body with its 10 claws. Now, you notice when it talks about the eagle, it has claws. It doesn't say talons. The wording is just like the claws of Daniel's fourth beast. We can conclude that after Russia's destruction, at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation period, that 10 nations will arise from the vacuum of power left in Russia's absence. And we're seeing that portion right now. Yes, ma'am.
The eagle is a symbol of the United States, is that?
No, that's not what it's talking about. No, nope. No, it has correlation. An eagle is a symbol of power and rulers.
And you said that's you're reading from Ezra?
Yes.
Ezra?
Yeah, the apocalypse of Esdras. Yeah.
Is he saying is he talking about the mid-trib?
Oh, no. Nope. Nope. It says the people will be removed ahead of time. The church will be removed ahead of time. No. He's spot on so far. Some of it is speculation as far as Russia. Now, things are falling in line in that Russia did take over East Germany. But according to prophecy, Germany has to be united on its own. The group of nations that are going to participate in the Magog war they are not servant states to Russia. They have to be independent. So all those Baltic states and East Germany, they're independent from Russia because it says Russia and its allies.
And we think Magog is Russia.
Yes, it's pretty well indicated.
Magog is the prince.
Yeah. It may involve, well, you know how peoples moved, so it may include other groups of people, but yeah, basically from that region. In fact, that was the area that the Russians actually came out of the Scythians.
So there'll be a confederation.
Oh, yeah.
I forget how many nations, but
Yep. And if you notice, that confederation doesn't include any of the nations right now surrounding Israel. They're from further out. So that tells me that this upcoming war that Israel's probably going to participate in, and that God's going to, destroy the enemy of Israel, that's going to be done before we get the right. Sure. You know I love rapids.
So do you believe Psalm 83 is a prayer or a prophecy?
Both.
Both. Okay.
There's nothing that limits God's word to one message. It depends how deep you want to look, and it depends on the source.
So let's run with the idea that it is a prophecy.
Yes.
So that prophecy says that these 7, 8 nations, whatever it is, are going to attack Israel, and Israel's going to defeat them.
Yes.
My understanding of that is that currently there's like 430, 480 miles of walls on the border of Israel. That's not counting, I guess, the local whatever. But when you get to the Gog-Magog war, it says that Israel will be in a time of peace, prosperity, and without walls. So my thought is that when they conquer these other nations that are immediately on their border,
Yes.
Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, that they're going to expand their borders
Yes.
to take over those countries.
And they're not going to put up walls outside of their new territory.
There won't be any walls
No.
because they've conquered these new lands.
Right.
But in the Gog-Magog, God says he's going to put a hook in the jaw.
Yes.
And so I think that hook, because they've just discovered in recent years
Natural gas, yes.
And Israel is right now working on contracts with Europe to provide that gas that Russia was supplying.
Yes.
And so I think, again, and I'm a babe in the woods here, so don't feel, like you don't want to correct me.
Oh, no. These are future events, so I mean,
think that's the hook.
yep.
And I think that, Russia's motivation for coming to destroy Israel will be economic. Iran's motivation is they just want to kill all the Jews.
Yes.
They want the Jews to be gone, as does every other Arab nation in that area. All this argument we're seeing right now about a two-state solution and all this, that's not going to happen.
No.
It will not happen. So
No.
we know that it can't happen for prophecy to be fulfilled. So I think that what we're seeing today, if it's not the beginning of the Psalm 83 war,
It's a precursor. It most definitely is.
So it's interesting to watch because I did hear in the news, I've heard it like 3 or 4 times now, that Israel is fighting on 7 fronts.
Yeah.
And if that's true, then that gives me a little bit stronger opinion that it could be this Psalm 83 war.
Yes.
Because there's going to be some things that have to take time. And all this plays into, obviously, the rise of the Antichrist and the need for a peace treaty. Now that's where I've got a bunch of different thoughts on that one, so I won't confuse us with my confusion. But there's got to be something there that, number one, he's going to be able to rise to the cream of the crop here, supposedly. It's going to have all the answers to bring peace into the world. But there's got to be something there that he's going to be able to offer Israel.
Yes.
And so to get them to engage in this peace treaty.
Yes.
And so, and of course, we know it's going to be a false peace, but it will be a peace of some sort for 3.5 years.
It doesn't actually say peace treaty. It says covenant.
Yeah, covenant, yeah.
So
Right.
that could be a deal like, not making peace between nations, but tells Israel directly, if you don't attack these other nations, we'll protect you. The rest of the world will protect you. We'll take care of you.
Or we'll give you permission to build the temple.
And build the temple and resume your sacrifices. Yes.
That's kind of where I'm going with my thinking, is that the only thing I can think of that would prompt them to be able to agree to something like that is going to be an offer that, on this side, that they're going to be able to rebuild the temple.
Yes.
And of course, the temple itself, the part they need, is only like 30 by 60. It's not that elaborate Solomon's temple that we see drawings of
No.
that stuff.
No.
But from what I understand, they're ready to go in an instant.
Well, the Al-Aqsa Mosque may not exist there by then. So because if Jordan joins into this war, Jordan is the one that controls the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
So if they defeat Jordan, who's going to stop them? And if there is a major battle near the city and the Al-Aqsa Mosque just happens to be destroyed by artillery or something, they've got the Temple Mount anyway.
Yeah, that's a key point.
But yeah, and that's I have the same line of thinking as you do, that they'll be living in peace without a worry, because they'll own all the property around. They'll own the other nations and the resources of those nations too.
And just so you know, if you get curious and you start getting out there and listening to these different guys, there are many opinions about this as there are carrier of liver pills. Because one of the guys that I'm new with, you're familiar with Billy Crone, but
Yep.
I've been listening to him for a few months now, and let me tell you, I have, but another one new to me is Amir Sephardi, who is an Israeli Christian living in Israel, and speaks on end-time prophecy, a lot. But I heard an interesting interview with him last week where he described that Israel right now is in a time of peace and prosperity without walls. His explanation of that is that Israel has never been as economically strong as they are right now. They do not have walls around their cities, although we know there's 430 or 480 miles on our borders. And so he says, so we're in a time of economic strength. We're at relative peace, or they were, and without walls. So he was making the argument that, the next step is going to be the Gog Magog, is what he's looking
But I would have to ask him, well, what's Russia's interest then in attacking? This is a little small nation. They have nothing to gain out of it, really, except maybe start a third world war. But now if Israel has conquered the surrounding nations, they've got quite a bit more, and it would be a very tempting target.
Yeah, like I said, I think Russia's motivation will be economic interest. I think it's going to be. I also heard a report where not only have they found natural gas, but there's also oil
Yes.
in the bay there on that north.
Right, offshore oil,
Of
yeah.
the Mediterranean. So if all that's true, which I have no reason to think that it's not, then, and they keep stealing, well, they're not stealing contracts. Europe doesn't trust Russia to be their supplier of natural gas.
Right.
They would. They would much rather do business with the Israelis
Yes.
if they can trust them. And so, and obviously that's going to have a negative impact on Russia, who right now is hurting very much because of the Ukrainian war, and they are just getting, wailed on.
Yeah.
And so not only are they being hurt economically, but that is also increasing that relationship with Iran, because they are becoming more and more dependent on Iran to supply them with artillery and armament for the war.
Yes.
And so Russia has become a little bit dependent here on Iran because of this over the last couple of years. So it makes for an interesting partnership, relationship that would carry, in my mind, would carry them into this joint interest.
Exactly. And there is a gas pipeline that has been under construction in Turkey for some time in anticipation of buying natural gas from Israel. And it wouldn't take much to run it up to Europe, so.
Yeah, like I said, it's almost like a how-to manual when you read the Bible and you watch what's going on in the world. You can almost write a checklist, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Very interesting.
the two-state solution isn't going to happen. In fact, one of the speakers this weekend is Bill Koenig, and he wrote a book called Eye to Eye. And he describes each time the United States or some other country has pushed Israel giving up land or partition, something bad has happened on that day. So,
Yeah, I forget who was president when Katrina hit, but
there's George Bush. George Bush,
4
yeah.
or 5 days after they had pushed for a two-state solution,
Yes,
Katrina hit.
yes, he was pushing the Israeli prime minister.
And that's what you get, so,
Yep.
and there's a whole line of these things, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I don't want to misquote it, but I think it's out of Zechariah, where it talks about the leaders and the shepherds in Israel.
Yeah. Zechariah 12.
No, I'm sorry, it's Micah. Micah 5. Micah 5, it talks about 8 leaders and 7 shepherds. And the 8th leader and the 7th shepherd is Jesus. And up to this point, they've had 4 leaders and 3 shepherds in Israel. They've got 3 more of each to go. And this involves war with Syria, which technically they are fighting the Syrians when they fight Hezbollah. So right now, Netanyahu could be the 5th leader already. And I don't know who his defense minister is, but he would be the 4th shepherd, because they are actively in combat with Hezbollah, which is part of Syria as far as I'm concerned.
I forget where it is that prophesies the destruction of Damascus.
Yes.
Which is in Syria.
Yeah.
I forget the reference,
But that leaves only 2 leaders and the 5th and 6th shepherd. So after him, like I said, there's not a whole lot of time left. So we really need to, knowing the prophecy, especially when people start panicking, saying, what is going on there? Well, it's easy. It's in the Bible. It's prophecy. So that opens a door, and people are going to get scared. They should be right now. We are at war with China, with Russia, with North Korea, and with Iran. This last week, there was a national cyber attack on the military pharmacy network, and they shut it down. I couldn't get prescriptions. They're still not taking calls. And I called them initially not yesterday, Wednesday, a week ago Wednesday. And they said, well, it's down. And the guy wouldn't say much. But when I called a couple of days ago, a lady I talked to said, yeah, there was a national cyber attack on the military pharmacy system. And we can't get our computers back up. So this is a test run. If they do the same thing to all our power plants, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. And they're capable of doing it, obviously, since they did this.
Yeah, and the fact is that that's what your enemy does. Your enemy probes your defenses. They won't come at you all out yet because right now they're testing because they want to see what the response is. They want to understand the impact in case the response presents any danger to them,
Yeah.
so that they can prepare for that. And so that's what we're going through that right now every day.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
AI,
and China found out how quick you can spread a biological, didn't they?
yes.
That's a test run.
I just read where Google did shut down China or Iran or something because they were using AI illegally. Well, go figure.
Yeah.
So, and AI really is one of the big concerns that I have because this thing is so advanced that they could put me on that screen promoting atheism,
Oh, yeah.
and
You wouldn't be able to tell.
you wouldn't be able to tell. It's scary. It really is.
It is.
You don't know. As it is now, I really, really struggle to trusting anything. Like, I know the internet's always been the internet.
Yeah.
But now it's even worse. It'll sound legit, but you better go dig because you don't know what's behind it.
Exactly.
So it's really scary.
But we don't have to be worried about it, do we?
It's all part of the plan.
Yep.
We know how it turns out. So I personally find it pretty exciting. Honestly, end time prophecy when I was young used to scare me. But now, as you read and you study, you understand that there's been 500 prophecies fulfilled to this day. That all that does is give us confidence that the other 500 are going to take place, and that
There's probably not even that many.
yeah.
According to Dr. Johnson, he says there's probably 15 to 16 prophecies yet to be fulfilled. That's it. Before the, yeah. Yeah. Well, actually less than that because he includes the prophecies from Revelation also. So it may be less, maybe looking at 10 worldwide prophecies that are going to be fulfilled. So
It should do two things, in my opinion. It should encourage us, and it should also instill within us a dire need to witness to people.
absolutely.
People are dying at a rate of, this person dies every 12 seconds, and we know the majority of them are going to hell. And I don't know that sometimes, I think it's just natural for us to have an aversion to thinking about hell and the punishment of hell, and so we kind of block it out mentally.
We're too comfortable.
Yeah,
We're too
exactly.
comfortable. It's not affecting us.
We're not
But
being impacted like the church.
like I
is
said,
trying to
wait till that big cyber attack comes or the next plague that they turn loose. And when people get really scared, they're going to want to know answers. And who's going to have them? All you guys are going to have the answers. This is what's going on. If you want to avoid what's coming worse, 1,000 times worse, then just listen to what I have to tell you.
You're almost telling me we need to come and have our own combine.
The Mormons do it. The Mormons are ready for anything. They're militarily prepared. They stock weapons and ammunition too, along with food.
I don't know, I need a friend with a big farm and lots of
Hey, we got Bobby and Mims.
We're going to Tennessee. What about the cyber attack against AT&T last week? I guess their network went down.
Like I said, we are at war. It's a cyber war, but we are at war. And of course, the administration's not going to tell us about that because they're worried about getting reelected.
I mean, listen, for years now, before I retired, probably the last 10 years or so, we were greatly limited to anything that we
Oh, yeah. And you think about, the military has pretty good, guards against that sort of thing, but corporations have better ones because you're affecting them financially. And so a company like AT&T that gets cyber attack knocked out, you better real bit.
I think it was Russia that they've developed a space weapon where they're going to blow a nuke in space and it'll neutralize all the satellites.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they also have developed and supposedly test fired it here a couple weeks ago, a hypersonic missile.
Oh, they're in inventory. They're in inventory right now, and all that means is that if you haven't heard of one, they could take a metal rod, just a metal rod, and if they can accelerate it fast enough, it'll destroy a tank. It'll penetrate 8-10 inches of armor.
This thing will do Mach 8 up to Mach 9.
Yes.
And they say anything over Mach 5 that ionizes the atmosphere around it, and so it's almost impossible to detect with radar.
Yeah.
And so by the time you know it's there, it's over.
They wouldn't be able to shoot it down.
Yeah. So there's, and of course, I always feel relatively comfortable that our country is, a step ahead, but it didn't sound that way with this one.
No. I think the Pentagon even admitted that we don't have anything like that in our inventory right now.
Yeah.
But they were working on it, so. But we'll see.
Man is barreling towards self-destruction for sure.
And it takes something minor to set it off. I don't know if you remember from the 80s that I think it was a Russian sergeant actually saved the United States because they're getting ready to launch on us because of a flock of birds. A flock of birds they picked up on radar. Russia was getting ready to do a nuclear launch, and the sergeant said, well, no, wait a minute. So he basically saved our hash, and that was in the late 80s. But anybody else? Any other question?
Sorry, I rather ran long.
No, that's fine. That's a good stopping point because we're going to start on modern Israel next week.